evening and welcome to the September 28th, 2010 Easthampton Public School Committee meeting. We will start with announcements.
The next regular scheduled school committee meetings are Tuesday, October 12th and October 26th. There is no school on Monday, October 11th, due to the Columbus Day holiday. There are half days of school on Thursday, October 28th and Friday, October 29th, due to parent-teacher conferences. There is no school on Tuesday, November 2nd, due to Election Day. There is no school on Thursday, November 11th, due to the Veterans Day holiday.
Thank you, and reminding everybody to vote on November 2nd. The school committee would like to recognize and thank the following volunteers for taping tonight's production. Angelo, Mamie, and Kathy. We appreciate their assistance. Easthampton Public Access Cable Station, both channels 5 and 62, is looking for volunteers. If anyone is interested in helping to tape city government meetings, please call Greg at 413-203-1360. Do we have any correspondence this evening?
One letter from the City Council informing us of their resolution to support farm to school. And then
Food.
Farm
Right.
to school.
And this is,
and the resolution.
and they have a resolution as well, right? So should we read the resolution for the benefit of the listeners?
Why not?
Do you want to read that through?
Sure.
Thank you.
Whereas the City of Easthampton recognizes the importance of eating fruit and vegetables for the health of our residents, especially our children, and whereas we understand the importance of healthy food in reducing the occurrence of childhood obesity and type 2 diabetes, and whereas we support our farms in Easthampton and neighboring communities for preservation of our cultural heritage and for the economic benefit, and whereas we support legislation in both the federal and state legislatures that promote the Farm to School project, be it hereby resolved that we, the City Council of Easthampton, Massachusetts, hereby recognizes the commitment of our city's food service contractor to use fruit and vegetables from small and medium-sized farms in school lunches, and that we make it a priority to choose local agricultural products in future food service contracts.
Thank you. I presume that this has been forwarded on to the folks at Chartwell's, and if it hasn't, we'll...
Don't presume.
Okay, then let's make sure that we give a copy of it to Andy and make sure that Andy gets it to Chartwell's. Okay?
Did they come up on that on their own, or was that a result of the school nutrition bill, or?
I'm not sure. You should ask Andrea. She tends to initiate an awful lot of this kind of activity in the city council, so I don't know what caused her to move this resolution forward, but it's probably a combination of a lot of things that are happening locally and the state legislative effort.
I know it's an initiative she was very much in favor of. When
Yes.
we talked, when I first took over as superintendent, she talked about how excited she was that we wanted to include this in our Chartwell's food service program. So.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Nancy, we have some gifts.
Yes. Please vote to accept with gratitude and appreciation the following gifts. Ms. Marge Petrus and All About You for the donation of crayons made by Easthampton's 225th Celebration Committee. An anonymous donation was received to match the MMSI Grant Funding Award designated for students who attain qualifying scores on AP exams. The donor provided funds for AP U.S. History students who received qualifying scores. 3 students achieved the designation and received the donation, $100 per student, for a total of $300.
Move to approve the gifts with gratitude and appreciation.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. After all of our conversations, Nancy, I think this is the right time to mention the school calendar. Question in relation to the school building project, or would you like to do that? I was thinking is there anyone here who wants to speak on something that's not on the agenda? There's no one here.
Is this a matter for action, or is this?
It's
just
not a matter for
discussion?
action.
This committee.
Sorry?
Not a matter of action by this committee.
Right.
No, not
But we
right.
should discuss it.
So I guess I'm saying I'd like to briefly discuss it now.
Sure.
Just to alert folks, and then I'll say a bit, and then I'll ask LaDonna and Nancy to help flesh it out, and then if there's questions. But just so that everyone on the school committee knows, Mel Obermeyer of, you're going to have to help me, Strategic Building Solutions is essentially our owner's project manager for the new high school building. And his assistant, and now I'm going to forget Austin's last name,
Austin
Miller, are going to be joining us on October 12th and October 26th for purposes of letting us know about how the construction plan as it is presently configured will impact the high school calendar in 2012-2013. The Reader's Digest version is that to increase the likelihood that the project is done as smoothly and efficiently as possible, we are entertaining the prospect of shifting students from the existing high school building to the new building in April of 2013. That is in the spring of the year. So the timing of that would require that we take advantage of an extended vacation period to allow both the project managers and the high school staff the opportunity to move the last pieces. A lot of the fixed things obviously will be already in the new high school, but a lot of the smaller things, the kinds of things that you see here in this room that teachers and students require to do their learning, need to be physically moved from space A to space B. So we will be looking very closely at when to schedule the school vacation that spring and the possibility of extending the normal time, not overall, but shifting some of the vacation time that normally would occur in February to April so that we could create a larger window. Now, all of this is contingent upon it not being disruptive to the educational experience of the students who are being educated in 2012, 2013, and that's where Nancy and her work with the principals and the faculty at Easthampton High School, they've already begun the process of looking at this and coming up with questions, but we may also have questions that we want to put to the project managers, and that's why they're going to come on 2 successive meetings to help answer any of the concerns we might have. In the end, we will take a vote to commit to that idea. Ultimately, the vote for the school calendar in 2012, 2013 will be taken by the school committee that is sitting in the spring of 2012, which may or may not be the same group that's making the commitment now. So that's the summary.
Could I just
and then, yes, could either of you add to that?
Because I think my understanding was when we left the meeting that the project managers were going to create 2 scenarios for us. One would tell us what would be involved if we tried to make this move in April, which is the preference of the committee and the project managers. The other option, the other scenario was to make the move in September as opposed to in April. And so the project managers were going to give us the details of that scenario as well. That's not what's preferred, and it appears that there would be an extra cost to the building project if we were to delay the transfer until September. But my point was that I felt we needed to get together with the Dr. Perrone, the high school principal, and Pete Roy, our maintenance director, and also the project managers, just to understand completely what was involved in trying to get ourselves ready for a move in April. And, we are told that the building will be turnkey, but we already had a preliminary meeting, Dr. Perrone and myself and Mr. Sealander, the former principal, and Mr. Roy, our maintenance director, to try to identify our questions about what turnkey would be. We want to have all the information before we go ahead and commit to one decision or another, and be it 1 week in April, 2 weeks in April, whatever it might be. So we are meeting with the project managers and the architects. I believe it's a week from Friday to have another meeting. We've given them our initial questions so that they can chat with us about that. And then it will be after that Mel Overmeyer comes and talks with this committee And he'll have that information, from our initial meeting as well at that point in time.
I'd ask that you include me in those future correspondence.
Very well.
I was not included.
You were not, no, that's an oversight, Mike. We will certainly include you.
I would say that the latest school building project meeting, or the school building committee meeting, there really was a great sense of good news in terms of what is likely to be able to go into the building, and so far at least the initial indications are in terms of the cost estimates. When you say, Mike, that the information we got so far was favorable, and that there's a positive momentum here, which is nice to see. And while this will be a challenge to address the calendar, I think the sense is that we want to work in concert to making it, happen and be well completed. Any additional costs that we incur mean things come out of the building. So anything that we can do to keep the cost of construction down means we leave more of the money on site when the construction folks leave, and that's always a good thing to do. Okay, so be thinking of the questions that you might have, and if you want, remember that this is available, the schedules and the materials, the cost estimates. They've done a great job in terms of keeping us informed, and you can take a look at any of this in advance of the meetings to be prepared to ask questions.
I think you covered that all.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. Then let's turn our attention to the presentation that we have tonight. Nancy, would you introduce our guest speaker?
I'd be happy to. I'm very excited about this presentation. I'd like to introduce John Smolensky. He's our liaison for the MIMSI, Massachusetts Math and Science Initiative grant that we have that has provided the funding for AP training for our teachers and incentives for our students, and he's going to tell you a little bit about the project.
Well, thank you, Superintendent.
And a few of us are going to shift out of the way so that the presentation can be a little bit easier for everyone to see.
Great. And this presentation is actually a composite of two presentations we've made in the past 2 or 3 weeks. One to Commissioner Revel and Secretary Chester, where we briefed the results that the 2010 examination, and also the open house that you had at your school, where we presented someone who actually saw much of this at this point. I was thrilled to see Jeff Sealander there. He was a very critical person in bringing the grant, relentless in his pursuit of the grant to bring it to Easthampton High School, so we were thrilled to see him. And I'd like to say up front that we feel that we've got great partners with Principal Crone, Vice Principal Beauregard, and the Superintendent. We could not be happier with the performance of Easthampton High School. I was here about a year ago and said we'd be thrilled to come back and report some results. We're thrilled to come back to report some results. So as you know, we have 3 goals in the grant: to increase participation, and we have dramatically; increased performance, and we have; and to ensure a greater college success for your students. And we think that we've done that. This is just an interesting little slide that in 21 schools over 2 years, we've produced, along with our teachers and schools, over 1,000 more students getting qualifying scores on the exam. That would be 3 or higher, which usually generates college credit. And so I'm going to jump forward a little bit. These are the schools that we are now in. We're in 46 high schools, a number of schools in Western Mass. We've just started in South Hadley and Agawam, Turners Falls and Greenfield, Ware, Athol, Quabog. So you were in our original 21 schools. And again, we show these to the students, we show these to the parents, the impact of the courses that you take in high school on college admission. This is the College Admission Officers Association. Very interesting slide here, the impact of scoring on the exam to your freshman year, which is light green, and senior year in college, grade point average. And you would see that even with a 2, which is the third set of bars from the right, you're about a half a point higher on average on your grade point average if you get into an AP course and get at least a 2. So in cohort 2, which is the 12 schools that you would be part of, we had red is before the grant, blue is after. So we started with 1,134 enrollments, and in 2010 went up to 2,196, and we're continuing to go forward. We're now up to 2,662. On the first exams, again, red is before the program, blue afterwards, we had a gain of 422 qualifying scores in 12 schools, or an 82% gain, which is pretty significant. How does this translate? Well, in the same period of time, the United States had a 7.5 increase in qualifying scores. Massachusetts had an 8.3% increase. If you were to back out these 12 schools from the Massachusetts total, it cuts the total down to 5.6%. So we really kind of moved the bar for Massachusetts. Wonderful jump of 81% for African American and Hispanic students gaining qualifying scores. Again, how that rates compared to the state and the United States. And interestingly enough, female students, we look at that, we look at male students in the English courses. We had a 52% gain in female students gaining a 3 or higher in math and science. Just a little foreshadowing for next year's exam results. You've had an increase of young ladies taking the math and science courses from 13 in 2010 to 33 with the kids that are currently sitting in the seats right now. And again, how does this rate? Significantly. Bigger bar charts are better. And so Easthampton High School, you kind of had a downward trend in enrollment prior to the program coming in, from 28 down to 12. First year you went up to 55, and now you're sitting at about 99. And we think that next year, talking to Vito and Ann, that it would be significantly higher still. We have the potential to add AP Biology, AP Statistics, to encourage more kids to go into the AP English classes. It's absolutely moving in the right direction.
And just a clarification, I was at the presentation last week, the 99 represents seats.
Seats, enrollments. So some students will take 2 or
one.
maybe 3. Right, absolutely. And so exams taken, you took 51 exams, and again, we do pay for half the cost of the exams. Most of those exams cost $86 a piece, so several $1,000s that we help defray the cost for the parents of Easthampton High School students. And then this is what we're so proud of. So from an increase of 6 to 41 qualifying scores, the largest increase of a school with more, percentage increase for a school with more than 5 qualifying scores. So you could have a school that didn't have AP and that had 10 scores, 0 to 10, and so that would outpace you. But for a school that had an advanced placement program, a small school, you're the highest percentage increase. It's absolutely far exceeded our wildest expectations. 583% increase. And we think, well, we'll show you in a minute. So this is an interesting chart that allows us to compare big schools and small schools. It's the number of qualifying scores per 1,000 students. So if you look at Massachusetts in red, it's a pretty well kind of a flat line. United States, similar. Look at the trajectory of Easthampton High School. You went up like a rocket ship. And I would note that the Easthampton High results are part of the Massachusetts results. You're kind of playing against yourself on this chart, but you've established a very, very positive trend. And so scores of 3 or better for female students in year 1, for math and science from 1 to 7. I think you'll be well over 20 next year. That would be my prediction based on your enrollment increase. Low-income students. This is a kind of an invisible problem in most schools. You have a sizable population of students that are on the free or reduced lunch program, and by and large, they had not been getting into the advanced placement program and or doing well. And we started. I would tell you that number is way too low, and that we're going to work hard with the staff, the guidance staff, the teachers to enroll more students. And as we do, more and more students, your AP program will begin to replicate the census of the school. And so that is our goal. So this is an interesting slide. Again, your history with advanced placement qualifying scores in math, science, English, 10, and then down to 6. Our goal was 16 in blue, and you came in at 41. So you actually surpassed all 3 years' worth of goals. And in a tried and true tradition, we just raised your goals for the subsequent years. And I would tell you that I think that you'll probably hit your 2012 goal, maybe your 2013 goal, and we'll raise your goals again. No telling how well these kids will do. I mean, as I looked at the results before coming here today, you went from 1 to 15 qualifying scores in the literature course. Brand new English language course, 0 to 9. These are both new teachers in their first year. Unbelievable results. In calculus, going from 3 to 11 qualifying scores. And your staff has done some good things, I feel, to help more kids do well in AP Science and AP Math and Calculus. Easthampton was one of the few schools that were doing those courses in one semester, and now you've gone across the block and to give the kids more time on task in the most difficult of all the AP courses. So that will open up access to many, many more students in those courses. So highlights of the program thus far: 1-year enrollment increase of 80% plus 44, 2-year enrollment increase of 253% plus 87. In advanced placement science, this is spectacular, 410%. You've added AP Environmental Science, and you added it in a big way with 34 students taking AP Environmental Science. That is just wonderful. And performance, a 583% increase, and the greatest increase in Massachusetts score with over 5 qualifying scores. I feel that by year 2, possibly year 3, but perhaps by the next year's results, you may find yourself on the Newsweek list of best high schools in America. Northampton made it in their 3rd year in the program. The major metric for that is the number of exams administered, which speaks to access more than the actual results. If that number is higher than your graduating class, in all likelihood you'll make the list. And I think that we may be there. If not, we're very close to that. Again, I think most of you know what the program is all about. I will tell you that the most significant thing in many ways is the student study session. Note the big boxes of pizza in the lower left-hand corner. We do feed your students. When we do these on college campuses, we feed them in the dining commons. We raffle off iPods and other prizes to help convince them that it would be a good thing to give up a Saturday. And your census on the Saturdays has been great. When students go to all 3 of the Saturday sessions, if you're a senior taking calculus, chemistry, and English, that would be 9 different Saturdays. That adds about 3 weeks' worth of advanced placement instruction to their curriculum. And so that's part of the reason, the extra hard work that the kids put in, that they did so well on the examination. And so they've got, the battle is joined. We're getting ready for our first series of study sessions. The kids are getting ready to come. And then we'll begin the whole recruitment process to talk to more students. And we're gaining momentum. And we think that many more kids that are in the middle, fully capable students that have just hung back a little bit and not walked forward into the AP courses, will experience another large gain in enrollment next year. I'm very confident of that. Subject to your questions.
Can we, I'm sorry.
Back it up.
Yeah, I guess my request would be, do folks have questions about the data? We all have all the data in front of us.
Yep, you do. The same slides.
Because I was going to say we can then sort of resume taking our seats for the purposes of the discussion.
Okay.
Thank you, John, and please give us a second, and we will have some questions, I'm sure.
Okay, very good. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's super. Okay. Well, thank you for that overview, and questions that folks have for Mr. Smolinski about the presentation or things that weren't necessarily known. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
My question is more about the process. If the student doesn't know anything about getting into this, what is the process? They first start with their grades or their scores on the PSAT.
Yeah, the PSAT is a wonderful way to help include more students in the process, not exclude them. But there's a program called AP Potential that runs off the PSAT results. It's like a forward-looking radar that establishes a probability of student success on the advanced placement exams. And when we looked at the AP Potential for Easthampton High School, we saw that there were literally hundreds of more potential enrollments in the AP program. So once we've identified that, that's only one way of identifying students. The other is student interest, grades in the precursor courses.
Faculty can encourage this as well.
Faculty recommendations. So there's a number of ways. And then outreach, College Board literature, talking to Mr. Peroni already about doing some outreach for your students, and we help with that. That's one of the things I actually do as part of the program. And then your best source of bringing more students into the program are their fellow students. If they're pleased with their results, it now becomes the thing to do, is to be, what are you taking for AP courses next year? And now you have opportunity to take more AP courses because you're actually offering a wider array. And I would tell you that I was thrilled to see the gift that came forward for the history scores, because we don't seek to compete with social sciences or foreign languages. If anything, as kids lose their fear of the brand name of advanced placement, more is better. We don't advocate for 4 or 5 unless the student is on their way to Harvard or MIT, but many students may only get to take 1 AP by their senior year when they're fully ready, but many will take probably 1 or 2 in the junior year and 2 or 3 in the senior year. I think that's what we'll see.
And there's some in their sophomore year.
And some in the sophomore year, correct.
So once they're encouraged to take the classes, they sign up for the classes, and when do the scores come into place? I mean,
So the AP exams are given at the same time, the first 2 weeks of May, every year, and they're corrected by the same people. Master teachers and college professors go off to a central location and score hundreds of thousands of these exams every year. And so the results come back in July, and then we begin to collate all of this to report back to, but your teachers actually and administrators will get it at the same time we do.
Right. We can access the results if you're a teacher, because in order to offer the class, you have to have the curriculum approved, and then you're registered electronically. So, for example, Kelly Brown finds out online as soon as the scoring is done. She can access to her account, and so in addition to the communication that will go to the school as a whole and to the parents, the teacher can find out and can relay information on to students.
so is the student already in the class when they take the exam?
Yep.
Yes.
They're in the course for a full year, and sometimes just a semester. Your English courses are only 1 semester, which makes the results even all the more remarkable. And then and it's a high stakes exam. There's a test at the end of which we help underwrite and pay half of it. Something I neglected to mention is that your teachers received a lot of professional development this year. They gave up a week of their time to go away to Bentley University in the summer, where we ran a summer institute. Some of the pre-AP teachers, I actually think had some middle school teachers as well, that went for 4 days of training at Worcester Technical High School that we provided. So the teachers are the heroes in this piece. I mean, they put in a lot of extra time to be at the top of their game to teach freshman college courses. That's what these AP courses are.
And if they get a 3 or higher on the course, that's when they get college credit?
And it varies from college to college, and we give the kids a little flyer. It's called Choose AP, which gives them a little website that they can go to find out what their college of choice is. Some colleges are more restrictive than others, but some, like for instance, the University of Massachusetts, with a 3 on a physics exam, will give you 8 college credits. It's a wonderful.
And at a minimum, you'll enjoy advanced placement, so that if you do well on an AP exam and you meet a qualifying score, even if you don't get credit, because some of the colleges, we're concerned about the loss of revenue there, they do allow a student to move past the introductory course. So a student who earns a 5 on a chemistry or physics exam won't take an introductory physics or chemistry exam in their college. They'll often qualify to go to, the 100, 200, 300. They'll go to the 200 level courses right away. So there's a benefit either way.
Or take that course and get an A on it. I had
Right.
a young lady at Middleborough High School. She came back and talked at an AP night. Sophomore, civil engineering major, 3.9 GPA. She said, I only got a 2 on my chemistry exam, but I got an A on my freshman chemistry course. And so that's we're preparing the students to do well. The freshman year, what we tell the kids, high school's harder than middle school, college is harder than high school. If you take AP, you know how hard it's going to be because you're testing it out ahead of time. Stick your toe in the water, see how hard these courses are. So we think the kids of Easthampton High School are going to be a lot more prepared for the universities that they go to, and more competitive to get into the schools that they want to get into.
Another thing, learned from last week, the Saturday study sessions are oftentimes combined with other schools in this program.
Yes,
Which
so
would be Northampton.
and some of them will be with Agawam and South Hadley. I think some of them will also include Turner's and Greenfield. And the kids, it's like a sporting event. It really is a unique, and I would encourage when we list them, if any of you want to stop in, if they're in the area, to see what's going on. That would be something that we would encourage. I think we'd be amazed. I was. Other questions? Sir?
Yeah, I just a comment again. I just think this is terrifically exciting. We've talked about a little bit about the results in the past, but hadn't gotten into such detail. But obviously, want to thank and credit the teachers and the students who made this such a success. one question I had in terms of your presentation, I don't know if you covered this. You had just this wheel of
The wheel of
program
stuff is-
elements of success, and it was kind
Everything
of
in the program,
right. And are there any particular things that may have influenced Easthampton's particular success here as it relates to other schools? Were there particular things that you think were most critical, or knowing that all of these things are important?
When we looked at Easthampton High School, we saw a school that had capacity. I mean, Northampton is getting 300 qualifying scores, and you're border Northampton, the same kids. They didn't have a lot of opportunity. They had wonderful teachers. And so what we needed to do is to help build a structure to accept these kids and allow them to maximize their potential. So that was step number one. And then to change the culture where kids want to take these courses. So as we build the English program, that's our one of our big goals. As more kids get into the grade 11 English program, they now have college level reading skills, which allow them to do well in AP Science. That's why English is in the Math and Science Initiative. It's a systemic process to make more kids aware of the opportunity to allow them to move in the direction of their own self-interest and then to do well. So it's a really pretty comprehensive program. There's a little bit of everything in the wheel.
Yeah, that's just great. I mean, I remember when we.
And we hope to add another 10 to 15 schools this year. I mean, we'll keep going as long as the funding allows us to, and hopefully at some point this can be institutionalized in some way because the results are dramatic. Any other questions?
Questions? I have one that I will share with you, and then in part will go to the committee as a whole. It's a math science initiative. You've made the decision to add English. When do you anticipate adding other courses?
Well, this replicates the program from Dallas, Texas.
Right.
And so the reason that this is a workforce development grant.
Right.
So it's the primary funders are ExxonMobil, Dell Computer, Microsoft. And to hopefully impact in a positive way the losses we're experiencing as far as relative to the rest of the world with our young students doing well in math and science.
Okay.
And the reason English is in there, although English on its own rights is a wonderful thing. You have to be able to read and write at a very high level to do well in anything. But it's to give the students the literacy skills to do well in AP Science, which is very text intensive, and AP Statistics, which is actually very text intensive.
Right.
Other courses, social sciences, history, something near and dear to my heart, or foreign languages. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough funding to include those, although they're critical as well. But when local funders could be found, as in the case that you've had here, you can replicate much of the program on your own,
Right.
with private funding. And that's actually happened in some places, whether it's been one school added Chinese in Texas, another added American history. I mean, all critical, all equally important, but we focus on the math and science. We target the math and science specifically for the workforce development reason.
Well, on behalf of the students as well as the teachers, I mean, we thank you. This report, I think, is testimony enough, but we certainly would add our thanks to the initiative that you've made, and we, I think, as a committee, look forward to supporting the ways that Superintendent Follinsby and Dr. Perrone and all of the teachers, because we know that the tests come at the end of a vertical process. So middle school math and science and English teachers are as important, and elementary school teachers are as important in this long train that leads to what happens on that Saturday in May. So I'm going to thank you. I am going to ask the school committee to entertain another question, but you've sort of led us there by the discussion of how we can encourage the funding, because just to confirm, you have professional development funding, we have the study sessions funding, we have a 50% reduction in the exam fee funding, and then there's an award funding.
Also materials budgets. So
right, and a materials budget.
I think it's somewhere $6,000 to $8,000 a year to buy more materials for the class.
Yeah, I mean, what it is it's a vast reservoir of financial support for math, science, and English. And I think, as John has said, and I think we all would agree, I guess I just want the school committee, and Nancy, if you can inform us about particular ways to expand our outreach to make sure that we are finding ways to fund students whose self-interest drives them, they want to take AP in the arts. There are AP art classes. There are AP psychology classes. There are AP government classes. There are a variety of courses where right now we're not able to offer that same benefit. And I think we need to do more. This gift here was simply a little help at the end, but those students paid their full fee on the exam, and they didn't pay the full fee on their exam in their science or math classes. And I think not just for equity, for political equity, but for intellectual equity, that we want to encourage and reward the budding social scientists, the budding artists, the budding linguists in our school, and make sure that they feel like first-class citizens too. And so I think you've made a challenge to us in a very tight economy, in a very tight budget situation, to see what we can do. We probably cannot match what you have, but maybe we can brainstorm some ways to do some outreach in the community and really encourage people who have interest in those courses to help Easthampton do the full plate, not just this wonderful portion of the plate, and then not quite so much in the other areas. So I don't know if anyone has any further thoughts about that. It's certainly something that is near and dear to my heart as a history teacher. And you've got a great history department, and I'm sure that the language department and the arts and others would benefit from this kind of involvement as well. So.
And I just want to thank you, John, for coming and giving this very positive presentation. We're just so excited about what this has brought to our students here in Easthampton, and we look forward to further successes.
Well, I'd like to make the same offer I made last year at this time, as I hope to see you next year, and we will have some very good news to report.
I look forward
That'd be
to
great.
it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, that's great. So now we'll move to discussion subcommittee reports, finance subcommittee.
We have not met, but just to let the finance subcommittee know that we will be having a meeting shortly. But I spoke to Andy this morning, and just to let you all know what's going on is that the business office, they have until September 30th to finish the free and reduced lunch application verification. So they are waiting until that is done, because then those numbers will go to Chartwell's for them to do a better budget for us. And they know that we are looking for this information very quickly. So as soon as Andy has that, we'll get together and have our meeting. So that's what we're waiting for right now. So.
Thank you very much. And policy review we're still in discussion mode.
Limbo for the
Waiting for the
policy.
bullying prevention policy.
And what do you anticipate, Nancy, just as an update, at the point at which that would come to the school committee for review by the policy subcommittee?
I would hope I could get it to them by the end of this week, but if not, certainly next week.
Great. Okay, so we're likely to try to meet, since it's a small group, between now and either the first or second meeting in October.
Right.
Okay. Great. Do we have it is CS now?
It
Okay.
is, yes. Actually, we had a meeting, I believe it was last week. So HEF has actually officially changed its name, so it is now, it can be called the Collaborative. It is the Collaborative for Educational Services, or CES. So that has actually happened. And then just to give you some highlights that I have learned about that have occurred from July 1st to September 1st that kind of relate to Easthampton items. There is an online course in algebra funded by the DESE, designed by the Collaborative, which will be piloted October 11th, and we are a participating district.
And Lori, if I could just
Yes, thank you.
interject here, Nellie Taylor, one of our math teachers at the high school, was trained to be an online facilitator for the course, so that's pretty exciting too.
Yes. There were over 300 educators who completed licensure courses in the summer semester. That's something that the Collaborative provides. They assisted Easthampton in submitting grants to train reading recovery teachers. They have something that we did have before. They submitted a proposal to the Community Foundation of Western Mass to partially fund the continuation of the Success by Six initiative. And that is the one that we're trying to get back in here. So there's still a hope that that can get going again. And then the big thing is just the initial phase of the branding and the rollout of the new name. They have a new tagline and just a whole new look. So that was a big thing that happened in September. So some of the highlights of the collaborative.
And just to add to that, they funded the professional development activities that the history department members were involved in, located at Smith this summer. That was another Teach for America collaboration.
And that could be, they talked about, and I apologize, I didn't know
Yeah.
everything.
Right.
Teaching American History
Right.
Summer Institutes conducted for 80 participants.
Right, and as far as I could tell, everybody in the history department was there. So, with the exception of one member who was off teaching math, which I think is fantastic. Thank you very much.
Excellent program.
Okay, so now we turn to the superintendent's report.
Okay, so we'll start with the preliminary September enrollment figures. We have, in our kindergartens are back to a small size. We have between 16 and 18 students in our kindergartens, and each kindergarten is a full-day kindergarten with a full-time paraprofessional, so we're very excited about that. Our first grade classrooms have gotten a little larger because that large group that was in kindergarten is now in first grade. But in grades 1 through 4, our class sizes range from 17 to 23, which is really a nice class size. At Whitebrook, Principal Rebello did a restructuring of the school, and she created 6 fifth grade classrooms so that we could have smaller class sizes in 5th grade. In grade 5, our class sizes are between 19 and 21, and in grades 6 to 8, they're between 21 and 25. At the high school, we have 114 ninth graders, 112 10th graders, 113 11th graders, and 101 12th graders. And as I said, these are preliminary figures. They may have changed since then. Our official figures go into the state October 1st. Any questions?
What are BEST and DLC?
What's that?
BEST and DLC.
Those are programs at the alternative programs at the middle school. And I don't remember exactly what those letters stand for, but they're alternative programs, which are pull-out programs, separate programs.
Thank you.
Just looking at this, like you have a really big, that 4th grade, it's going to be really big next year at Whitebrook. When those elementary grades start combining, you
Yeah.
got some big classes coming up.
Yeah. Well, and I think that was one of the reasons that Principal Rebello did the restructuring here at Whitebrook, so that we would continue to maintain smaller class sizes in 5th grade. We're trying to maintain more of an elementary feel, more of an elementary program in 5th and 6th grade. As you know, the 5th and 6th grades are in a separate wing of the middle school here, and the teachers have a more elementary program than the program in 7th and 8th grade. And we're trying to maintain those small class sizes.
And strategically, that makes sense because that's a school choice place,
That's right.
right? And I think it's a wise area for Principal Rebello to be focusing and maintaining that transition, because I think a lot of parents enjoy the experience their children have in elementary school, and change always produces some anxiety. And I think these changes, and as you highlight, they're going to be even more so next year. But the precedent is set. It certainly is working in at least one 5th grade household that I know of in town. My own. My son has really found the transition to be terrific, and I think a lot of parents who are already thinking that far ahead should take note of the effort that we're making to make the 4th grade to 5th grade transition a successful one, and a really important step in your child's education as they enter middle school. But still, 5th grade is that transition year, and it's being treated that way.
They have their own separate cafeteria as well in this wing, so I just want to reiterate that we really do try to maintain that elementary feel to the 5th and 6th grade classrooms. Any other questions on that? Okay. I included in your packet a copy of my entry plan as a new superintendent for Easthampton, and it outlines my goals and the steps I will take to gather information on the district, and I will create a summary report to submit to the school committee after the first of the year, and use the findings to help us create a new strategic plan. I've entered into a number of conversations, some with many of you and many people in the district. I've done many observations. I've taken copious notes. And it's an opportunity for me to step back and gather information and to look at the school with different eyes and to find the information that will help us move forward in a very positive way. Any questions on that?
I just appreciate your effort in doing it, and I think of it as a first step towards that revision of the strategic initiative. You know,
Ask that, yeah.
Yeah. It is, and as well as, I've mentioned to you before that I'm in this mentoring program that the state's supported for new superintendents in certain tier district schools. And one of the major areas of focus for our mentoring program is creating a strategic plan or defining the strategies, really, rather than a strategic plan, the strategies that we can all get behind and that we think will help move us forward in that positive direction that we all want to go in and to help us identify our focus and our goals. So I'm very excited about that. I had another session with my mentor today, this morning, and with Gordon Smith, the new superintendent in East Longmeadow. We spent from 9 o'clock in the morning until 12 o'clock in a session, professional development sessions.
Do you have a sense of timing on when the strategic initiative or the school committee related strategy sessions will take place?
After January, probably in the early spring, but I'll know better as I continue to go through this program because they really are outlining steps for us. But it'll certainly be after January.
Okay.
Any other questions on that? Okay.
we have the high school graduation requirements piece.
Right. Just an update because the school committee asked about this at the last meeting. Those graduation requirements are online. They're on the website under the high school website link. And if you look on the left side, once you get to the high school, you'll see program of studies. Or no, I think it says program of studies. And you go to that, and there's a PDF that has the actual program of studies and all the course requirements. It's a little bit tricky to find, and I was speaking with John Schott this afternoon about how we might make it a little more user-friendly to find that. And then the high school feasibility design phase graph, which Peter was talking about earlier.
These things, right? Yeah, these are
Yep.
also available online.
And that also is available at the high school website. I believe on the left it says new building. Do you have it up there, Mike? And not yet. And if you go to new building, underneath the new building, there's a PDF, and it is called feasibility design phase. But again, I talked with John Schott today about renaming it something having to do with the construction schedule, so that people could, easily see timeline, right? See.
Oh, there it is.
Right.
Proposed construction timeline.
Right, and there's the
There it
picture.
is.
And that is important. People ask, we had this vote in May, and people are looking for the shovels. And this helps answer the questions that they might have about how deliberately we must and will proceed to make sure the high school building is done
Until
correctly.
you have the high school link up, I still cannot open the handbook, and I'm just hoping it's not
No,
web issue.
I tested it, and I could.
Okay.
So
The
That's a good
teacher
question.
handbook.
The student handbook?
no, she had asked
Student
last
handbook, yeah.
time. Yeah.
You can click on that.
And let me know.
It's teacher handbook.
Should be able to click right on where it says PDF.
Pretty sure I got in.
It's not,
I
it's
know
not
she
an
had
active
asked about
PDF.
Click the
Oh,
PDF.
there?
Yeah.
No, they didn't do the whole thing.
Yeah, click where it says PDF is where I'm clicking.
Yeah, because the whole title isn't a part of the PDF.
Where is it? Is that on the left or down on the bottom?
Well, it's in the middle of the page.
New
Student
student.
handbook.
Video, math and science, 2012,
Yeah,
10,
that
11
works.
program studies.
It's on the main page.
There we go. Okay.
Did we get into it? Did it open?
Okay. But it isn't coming up on yours right now.
Yeah?
You're up?
Mine open.
Oh, good.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
need something at home.
Tutorials after the meeting. Right.
Well,
Okay.
Upgrade it
Fairly large.
reader or something.
But yeah, I would like to encourage anyone who's curious about this. The information, it's really incredible how many steps the city needs to go through. but every one of them is essential to making sure that the building that the students use either in the spring or the fall of 2013 is a building that they walk into really excited and that does the most possible to support their learning. Okay.
Actually, the quick
Right.
process, the long process was up until the vote.
That's
Yeah,
right.
right.
That
Yeah,
was
this has a clear timeline.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
timeline will be sensible for folks.
I do have
Other
one.
actions.
Right. I did want to speak a little bit about the 10th grade MCAS scores that were published in the paper, because I've had some questions about them. What it showed is that we do have some work to do. However, I want to put some perspective on these results. First, it is important to remember that this is only one assessment of academic achievement and a snapshot of grade 10 work. Our presentation tonight of the wonderful success of our AP program and the story is another important part of the story at the high school. And we have many other assessments that indicate marvelous successes. So I think that it's important to keep that in mind. As we get closer to the 2014 target date for all students to be proficient, more and more schools and districts will have difficulty making the target set by the date. By the state at that date, that's clear. Our district as a whole is not in any kind of improvement status as measured by MCAS. Our performance rating is high at the district for English language arts and moderate for math. Our high school has the same performance ratings, high for English language arts, moderate for math. Most importantly, we are happy to have data we can use to create plans of action to address identified needs. We have already put in place a number of initiatives to improve academic achievement for all students. For example, and I'm only going to give you a few samples of things that have already been put in place as we've monitored these trends. The high school has adopted the Common Core and changed the program of studies to include an additional semester of algebra, more algebra courses. We have researched and put into place a pilot math program designed to provide a strong continuum of math instruction K to 12 with easy transitions between the elementary and middle school and the middle and high school, and with more emphasis on algebra. 2 years ago, we brought Dr. Sanford Roth in as a literacy consultant to work with teachers in grades K to 8 on improving literacy skills for our students, and our MCAS scores are already showing the improvement that's occurred because of that strong instructional piece that we've put into place. These are just a few highlights. I've asked our curriculum director and our principals to attend the next school committee meeting on October 12th. And Ms. Earls, our curriculum director, will present an overview of the MCAS data, and each principal will be asked to talk about the data specific to his or her school and the action plan that will be put into place to address the identified needs. We'll have a more comprehensive discussion about MCAS and our ways of addressing those MCAS scores and the gaps that we see, as we look at our information. Any questions on that? I'm sure you'll have more questions as the principals give their talks next school committee meeting.
Yeah, I'm sure some of you saw the article in the Gazette, and the full context of my remarks were that we're pleased with the progress that we made. If you actually look at the rate of progress in our scores, particularly at the elementary level, we're improving at a more rapid rate than the state is overall, but that there's a lot of work yet to be done. And I understand the necessities of space, and when you're speaking with someone and they're reporting it doesn't always come across. But I didn't want there to be any sense of complacency or overconfidence in my part. I think Superintendent Follansby and the principals and the teachers understand that what we saw there was valuable data to get and important information to reflect on as we continue to improve our process.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think we're at matters for action. Is that right?
Yep. At what point do you want to mention the fish ladder?
Oh, the fish ladder.
Is that too late?
We should have done that earlier. There's a great project. Mike, can you just
Sure.
speak briefly to this fish ladder project while we're getting on?
We're midway in construction of a concrete fish ladder think of it like a handicap ramp for fish, on the Manhan Dam. And a portion of that project involves a local share of work building wooden baffles that will be slid into place in this concrete structure. And so we're, with the generous assistance of Councilor Shatner, who is a woodworker by avocation, we're going to be building these rectangular devices at the garage that's owned by Riverside Industries off of Liberty Street. And for those that may have been around a very long time, and I suspect nobody at the table, it used to be the Western Mass Electric Company's garage. But and so we've scheduled the 23rd and 24th of October and the 30th and 31st of October for work parties to do some assembly work. We're hoping that most of the cutting will be done, so that really it'll be more of putting a puzzle together, a wooden puzzle together. We have 65 or so of these devices to make. So it's going to be a lot of repetition, drilling holes, screwing pieces of wood together using carriage bolts and wrenches. And so we're looking for volunteers. Anyone who's interested, please contact my office and we'll get you on a schedule. We're looking for 2-hour commitments at a minimum.
Do they need to be 18 years or older?
You need to be 18 years or older unless you're coming with parents. And then we'll allow the parents to determine what the kids can do. But yeah, there will be some power tools, and there is a chance for injury since the wood is relatively heavy. So children will have to be accompanied by adults.
But don't be discouraged. It sounds like a fun thing and the legacy that'll last for a long, long time. It's all part of the broader education.
Yeah, the reason I asked is if any students needed community service
Yeah, it
time.
would be a wonderful opportunity, and we'll, if we know that ahead of time, we'll try to find appropriate activities that don't present the kind of pitfalls that some of the work might entail. I mean, there'll be some use of drills. We're going to use people with a lot more experience to run the saws, and so we'll kind of focus on the people that are going to be doing the more dangerous things. But really, we are attempting to create a jig so that people can get together in teams of 3 or 4 folks and assemble the pieces and drill the holes and bolt them up. And it should be a lot of fun. I'm going to provide refreshments, and we're hoping that it'll be an enjoyable time for everyone. And it's going to be, of these 65 pieces, 7 of them have some variation, and so the other 58 pieces are exactly alike. So it'll be fairly easy to build a jig that will allow people to make the piece repetitiously without having to have a lot of measurements and that sort of thing. It looks like a lot of fun. Something to do towards the end of October as it gets a little colder.
Yeah. I think the first volunteer date is sooner than that, but then there is a series of them that came out in the email. So
Yeah.
Your comment just reminded me of one other factor, and I guess we'll have to ask Dr. Grove, or maybe Sue, do you know when will we be gaining a student member? You don't know, so we need
Dr. Perone did mention to me that they had their school council elections, I believe, so
Okay.
it should be shortly.
Should be shortly. Okay, because that's a great way to get the information back
Right.
to the students in the high school, because I know that they're all watching tonight. Okay. Matters for action.
Matters for action. Motion to approve the minutes of the September 14th, 2010 meeting of the school committee.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of the September 14th, 2010 meeting. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
And an abstention. Thank you.
And we don't have any warrants
I
and
think
payroll.
there are no warrants and payroll tonight. So we have 2 field trips.
Isn't that unusual?
Yep. Well, we did a lot the last time, but and we have 2 field trip requests. Is that right? Mystic. I'm trying to pull mine up. Sorry.
Highland Bike Park.
Right. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the high school field trip to the Highland Bike Park in Northfield, New Hampshire.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Sorry. Anybody not want them to go biking? Can you also read that one?
Yes.
For some reason, I'm missing mine.
Motion to approve the high school field trip to Mystic Marine Life Aquarium.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Cool oceanography. That's the kind of stuff that will work out well with AP Science. One last motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a good night.
job, Peter.
Quick.
I think you beat last time.
Yeah, Brian Fink has no idea how bummed he is.
I really felt bad about missing the last meeting. I heard it was so short.
For, you know,